YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. Today we got bold predictions from the fans sent in through Twitter. Do this every single week. This week, week 11 for the NFL. Thursday Night Football tonight. Falcons Patriots will be covering that on Twitter, so check us out there. Link down below for that Twitter. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. You guys know the drill. We have full NFL coverage here. Weekly picks, power rankings, a lot more. Recently did my Pro Bowl ballot, so check that out. Recent video. Recent videos pinned in the comments like always. It'd be easier to find it that way. So let's take a look at some of these bold predictions. A lot of you send them in. Appreciate you guys. Skim through, see which ones stand out. From Trent, Dan goes on another rant next week when the Bears lose by double digits this week. Yeah, so Dan's in our weekly picks videos, and he usually got something to say about the Bears. Oh, This is happening. You know, something. It's good. It's good stuff. You know, we got to hear what he's got for us. Last week was about the refs. I think the week before was about the play calling, and it's rightfully so every time. You know, I definitely agree with the rants. Something's got to happen this week, whether it's good or bad. If the Bears just dominate the Ravens, you know, maybe. Well, you said they lose by if they lose by double digits. All right, so they would have to lose by double digits. All right, maybe I pulled the trigger a little early there. So the rant's going to happen, okay? But for them to lose by double digits and the rant happens, I do think it's realistic. I had the Ravens winning by 10, but now it's sounding like few guys not practicing, and then Lamar Jackson's still sick, non-Rona related. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, definitely looking forward to what Dan has to say every single week about his Bears, his beloved Bears. Next up, Washington football team only. Jalen Hurts runs all over the Saints for the second time in a row as the Saints drop 3 straight. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And what he means by second time in a row is because the Jalen Hurts ran on the Saints pretty well last year. I picked the Saints in a squeaker in this game. The Eagles are hot. They're getting better. Jalen Hurts is getting better. The running game's getting better. Devontae Smith's getting better. Coaching staff's getting better. Play calling, obviously. So I've been liking what I see from the Eagles. But I picked the Saints, and the Saints stopped the run at a ridiculously high level. All right, so that's what I was going with. They're not going to shut down this run. They're going to limit the run, force the Eagles into odd situations, and the Saints can get a little bit more going on offense they have been. So that was kind of my prediction. I'm not crazy confident about it because it's a 50-50 game. Eagles are favored. They've been hotter than the Saints. But I can almost argue with myself there on the Saints. It's all gonna come down if the Saints can stop that run or not. You know, and I can almost argue with myself because they're so good at stopping, you know, your traditional NFL style running inside the tackles. And the Eagles is not that. You know, a lot of read options, a lot of assignments. You know, somebody's got to be on the quarterback, somebody's got to be on the running back, and it just takes one guy to mess up, or a guy could correctly read it, but Hurts keeps the ball and he just outruns the defensive end on the outside. It's possible, and that was a problem when the Saints played Hurts last year. It was just different than what they're used to stopping. But last year, didn't have too much film. Didn't have, they weren't really prepared for Jalen Hurts. So I think it's a little different this time around. Also can't really base things off a game last year, but it kind of sticks in your head a little bit. Understand that. I'm not predicting this to happen, but I do think it's possible at the same time. I think it's realistic. I'm not predicting this to happen, but I think it's realistic. I think if the Eagles win, I think it's going to be because Jalen Hurts has a pretty damn good day running, and I do think that's possible. I do think it's very realistic. So we'll go realistic. It's not the biggest game of the week. It's definitely maybe the toughest to pick, 50-50. But it's a big storyline to me, in my opinion. You know, what I'm looking for here, matchup-wise. That's the storylines for me, not, you know, who the diva is of the week. And, I look at, can the Saints stop this run? Is it just different run? Is it a different style? Is it, are the Eagles good now? Are the Eagles a wild card team? Are the Saints just blowing it now because guys got hurt? Or are they going to turn it around? You know, there's a lot in the line in this game. I'm looking forward to that one. Joe Mixon gets 200-plus rushing yards. I'm kind of feeling Joe Mixon. That's why I like this one. I think I said it in the videos this week. For some reason, I'm feeling Joe Mixon this week. I mean, Joe Mixon's a very good running back. But, the Bengals feel more like I like the balance they got, but are they more of a pass first? I don't want to say pass first because sometimes they do run to open up the pass, but they're more they pass a lot. We could say that. They pass a lot. Okay. I just got a gut feeling that, and it looks like teams are able to have a little more success on the ground against the Raiders, some open holes. And then, the first guy's always going to miss, it feels like, recently, just by way of what I saw. But it feels like the Raiders are going to be so focused on, we got to watch Chase, we got to watch Boyd from the slot, Higgins, and they were so focused on Tyreek Hill last week, and he was getting wide open at the same time. So they're going to be really focused on cleaning that up, what happened there, and focusing on all these receivers that, you can run on the Raiders. And I think Joe Mixon gets going. In the Bengals kind of been sitting back watching with that bye week, been able to plan here. So I have a weird feeling. It's not that weird because Joe Mixon's really good, but I have a feeling he's going to go off. 200 yards is a lot, though. I'm going to say warm. Maybe that's bold of me just to call it warm. I think I'm expecting a big day. I definitely could be wrong. It's a gut feeling. Maybe they throw all over the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders, this year's been weird. Maybe the Raiders just shut them down. I don't know. I don't see it happening, but I think I got a feeling. I got a feeling about Mixon this week. I'm not saying he gets 200-plus yards, but it's an interesting one. I'm kind of on the same page as Ocho here in terms of Joe Mixon having himself a day. We'll see. It's probably I'm going to look pretty bad if Mixon I don't see him getting a shit ton of carries and not running well. It's the matter of him getting the carries. I think I can be wrong. There's a chance I can be wrong because they may just throw the crap out of the ball and they don't even give Mixon a lot of carries. I think that's realistic. So I'm looking forward to see what they do here. Maybe they get down early, big time, and they just got to play from behind. They got to keep throwing. That's possible. Luke Baumgartner, Lions losing a heartbreaking fashion once again, 3 points or less. They've been losing in a heartbreaking fashion like crazy this year. They kind of stopped for just a second, and then they brought it back against the Steelers. They were lined up for a 48-yard field goal in overtime and lost it. They play the Browns this week. The Browns are kind of struggling. But, do we expect them to struggle against a Lions team? This is an interesting one because I don't think they lose in heartbreaking fashion. They definitely could. I don't think it's like a heartbreak. I definitely could see it being close, though. Closer than people think because it really depends on the Browns and how they approach this here. Because we know the Browns are a run-first team. They start games by running the ball, running the clock, wearing the other team down, and then making their offense sit on the sideline. And that is the Browns' game plan every single week, and they're pretty damn good at it. It hasn't worked a whole lot this year, but they're if there's a team, there's only a chunk of teams that do that. They're probably one of the better ones that do that have that game plan constantly. So if they come out in their normal game plan and they're running the ball like crazy, it's going to run a lot of clock. There's not going to be a whole bunch of scoring, but then you look on the other side, the key to the Lions is running the ball as well. The Patriots had success running against the Browns last week, and the Lions are, you wouldn't know it because they don't have a win yet, but they're pretty good running the football, all right? And they're not so hot passing the ball. Goff might be out. So it's a high percentage chance that both these teams' game plan is run the football. Therefore, a lot of clock gone, not a lot of time to get separation, get a big lead. So I think it could be a close game in terms of 3 points or less. There's another scenario where I can see the Browns trying to get Baker going, trying to get the passing game going because it hasn't been going, and trying to get outside their comfort zone because, when they get down early and their game plan doesn't work, they're screwed, and they got to work around that. So against the Lions, a game you expect to win, maybe it's a chance to just come out firing, throwing the ball like crazy. Getting some things out in film to throw other teams off. I do think that's possible. But to kind of answer this, the Lions lose in heartbreaking. I don't think they lose in heartbreaking fashion, but the 3 points or less, I think it's possible. Let's call this hot because it's kind of two options here. We'll call it kind of hot. I don't think both happens because I predict the Browns win by more than 3. So I'm not, and I'm not predicting the heartbreaking fashion, but I think it's possible. Another Lions one here. Kyle Harsek, Tim Boyle, David Blah play just as bad as Goff and Lions fans can't stop making push to see one of them start. I noticed that as well. That Lions fans are calling for anybody but Goff right now. I actually noticed that quite a bit. I noticed it early in the year too. So he's saying that I think they just play just as bad, and then maybe those fans that have been saying that kind of looks bad on them, maybe, if that's what he means by this. But I thought it was pretty interesting, even if I don't know exactly what it means. It would be Boyle if Goff can't go, and I think they would play pretty bad. I would think maybe we'll call it realistic. It's gonna usually when a random quarterback that we haven't seen much of kind of gets thrown in there. They're usually good right away, and it's usually because the other team just doesn't have film on them. They just don't really know what they're about. So there's a chance that Tim Boyle gets in there and he looks really good, and then we get an overreaction from a lot of people. I do think that's possible. But I think it's realistic that whoever it is, I think it would be Boyle. Well, I know it would be unless he went down. I think it's realistic to think that they struggle just as much or more than Goff. And then everyone's like, maybe Goff is our best. He is their best option, okay? So it's interesting, but we'll see. It'd be something. It'd be something if Boyle started and they won. I wouldn't overreact. I would say that maybe the Browns didn't have film, didn't really know what to expect from him, and maybe the Browns struggled on offense, and that's why they lost. But it would be something because they finally got a win. It's the one game where Goff didn't start. It'd be pretty freaking wild there. Next up, I thought it said Wardell season. Joe Flacco outperforms Tua. They're playing head-to-head. Jets-Dolphins leads the Jets to a big win and secures the starting job for the rest of the year. This is interesting because Joe Flacco got the job now for this week. I think it makes sense. People talked about it that because the Dolphins bring the blitz, and really when it comes to the blitz, it's just all about changing the play at the line, understanding when they're going to blitz, where they're going to blitz, who's blitzing, where they're going to blitz from. And then when you see young quarterbacks play it and they get blitzed like crazy, it's because the reason they don't blitz them is because they don't know what to do. You see that in every level of football. You see it. We see when Jordan Love played his first game, the Chiefs just blitzed the absolute crap out of him. It just happens all the time. So if it was Mike White or Zach Wilson, the Dolphins are going to blitz either way. So that's why it was good to make the decision. It's not like they're only going to blitz if we play a certain guy. They're going to blitz either way. They're a pretty good blitzing team. And even though their defense has struggled this year, it's because they played some pretty good quarterbacks that know how to pick up the blitz. They know how to beat it. And then when the Dolphins defense had success, it just works on some of those guys, and they did a good job. So getting Flacco in there definitely helps with the pre-snap adjustments. But if the offensive line gets beat, there's not much Flacco can do because of his athleticism. Maybe he can get the ball out quicker, but the lack of athleticism, I should say. So, that's where it's on the offensive line a little bit as well. But I think Flacco could outperform Tua. I definitely think it's a possibility. The Jets' offense has been looking a little better. Leads the Jets to a win. And so a lot has to happen here. I do think he can outperform Tua. I think that's – I expect Tua to he should. I expect Tua to outperform him, but I do think it's realistic that if Joe Flacco outperforms him, the Jets win. I think I'm picking the Dolphins, but I think it's close to realistic that the Jets can win there. I think it's realistic. And if he does that, if he plays well, he might have the starting job for the rest of the year. It's might be a tough decision. Do they want to put Zach Wilson in? Do they just rather have him sit for the rest of the year? So, I'm actually gonna say it's warm. Maybe that's bold of me there to say. I think this is all. A lot has to happen. I think it's all realistic. I'm not actually predicting any of it to happen, but I do think it's all realistic. It could happen. So it's definitely interesting to see what they do there. I think that's a tough situation for the Jets, maybe the fan base as well. Do you want to see Zach Wilson? If you don't see Zach Wilson again, is it kind of panic? We know he's got to be the starter next year, but do you think it hurts him if he's sitting out? I think he needs more reps, and where his struggles are, I think it's more reps will help. So it's a tricky situation, for that organization, the fan base, how you're feeling there. Of course, you want to win, but that's interesting topic. That one, hokey. Trevor Lawrence has his most yards and touchdowns yet in a great performance against the 49ers. So that would be Yeah, so his best game, we'll call it. Over 300 yards and 3 or more touchdowns. Best game this year against the 49ers. This is so weird because the 49ers just looked real good this past Monday night against the Rams. They looked really good. First time we've seen them play that way all year. Some people are starting to feel like they're back. They're going to play like that or close to it, that energy every week. And then I can see it just how this year's been. Just how it's been. Like you think you got a team figured out, and the next week it's like completely the opposite. It's been like that, like crazy every single week. So I could see the 49ers kind of going back to playing pretty bad. And their defense has actually been bad. That's why it was so different on Monday. Like guys flying the ball, first guy making the tackle, but then there's gang tackles as well. Very tight coverage. It's just not what it's been. It's not what it's been this year. So it's really going to depend on which 49ers show up. The Jags offense has been struggling, though. It's been struggling. Receivers, main problem is receivers not getting separation. I guess the plays as well. Like, not the best plays, just like the designs. Long developing routes. So the receivers aren't changing the route. So maybe we put it more on the type of plays that we're calling here. Bevel is coming up with, if he's the guy. This is tough because I think Lawrence is capable against this defense based on what they've been showing. It really depends on if the Niners are back. Unless they're kind of going back to normal. We see so many teams doing it. I'll say it's hot. I think it's like one of those realistic hot ones. I think it's possible, but I think it's pretty hot. But it's just a big storyline for me this week too, which 49ers really felt back. Mainly the defense to me. I know the offense, it was impressive the offense moved the ball the way they did. But the defense, that looked like Super Bowl year 49ers defense. We know it's not as talented, but in terms of flying the ball, gang tackling, they're everywhere. They just haven't been that way this year. They just haven't been. So, and then we see, the Cowboys versus the Broncos last week, and both those teams go back to normal this past week, and it's like, that's just one example. So, it's a big storyline here. What 49ers are going to show up? So, it's definitely interesting. Colin Crislip, Tom Brady continues to struggle this week versus the Giants and throws 2 more interceptions, but still squeaks out a win by 3. Brady been a little sloppy, and we saw it for a chunk of the season last year of him kind of a little sloppy with the ball, and then for the large portion of this year so far, he wasn't. It's like he got better with the ball, but then the last couple games we've seen him versus the Saints, versus the Washington football team. Sloppy with the ball, struggling a little bit. And then against the Giants defense is balling right now. It's a very good defense. I could kind of see this happening. I could see him, the Giants making big plays, but then the Buccaneers still pulling off the win, because even if they have those turnovers, they're probably gonna, Brady's still gonna outscore Daniel Jones. I could see this. Like, I think this is like a realistic scenario. But I'm not predicting it. I really don't think it's going to happen, but I can picture the scenario at the same time. We'll call it warm. We see the Giants defense giving all kinds of quarterbacks problems, giving teams problems. They gave Brady some problems last year. The Bucs couldn't really get much going on offense, and it came down to a squeaker. A last play of the game. The Buccaneers pull it off over the Giants. We'll see. Looking forward to Monday night there. Those are some good ones. That wraps up the bold predictions of Week 11. Here every single week we're doing these. Follow our Twitter to get involved. I always post the question. Let's hear those bold predictions. You guys drop them there and play along. That's how we do it. And, link down below for the Twitter. Make sure you follow it. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We have full NFL coverage here. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.